today?
Good. I'm doing pretty well.
Good, that's good to hear. So thank you for completing this ASCII. I'm going to score that up shortly. So what I have on our agenda today is reviewing homework, and then we're going to dive into the cognitive part today. So we're going to go through the model, then we're going to practice identifying automatic thoughts, and then review our thinking, and then we're going to dispute and provide responses. So a lot to get through today. However, is there anything you'd like to add?
Nope, like you said, I think that's a lot to get through, so let's just focus on that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate your initiative. Again, I'll reserve the last 5 minutes, so if there's anything you'd like to talk about, that opportunity will be for you.
Okay, great.
Okay, awesome. So what was your homework? Was monitoring the your social anxiety again?
Yeah.
So how did that go?
I didn't get it done.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot, I guess. I just didn't really do it.
Okay, so he said that you forgot. So what happened at that point?
When I forgot?
Yeah, or I mean, like, we had scheduled for Saturday. Did you have stuff get in the way? I'm just trying to...
Yeah, I guess there were situations that happened, but I just didn't write it down.
Okay, so good news is I have a blank copy here, so we're
Okay.
going to go ahead and walk through one, all right? So the main reason why I was asking is that way when we do assign homework later, we can figure out how we can make the situation a little bit easier for you to complete. Okay? And we'll address that when we get to homework.
Okay.
So I have a sheet here for you. So let's go ahead and walk through like you would if you're completing this homework on your own. So go ahead and describe a situation for me when you experience social anxiety.
Over the past week, I mean, let's see, there's that one week, that one time. I want to think of like a good one that I can really do.
Okay.
Well, there was a classmate that I had that we were gonna get together and do like an assignment together. So that was a situation that I think would work pretty good. That was pretty nerve-wracking, anxiety provoking.
Okay. So you're talking and setting up a time. Was that how it did? Okay. Why don't you go ahead and jot that down real quick. So scheduling a time with classmates.
Yeah, her name's Anne.
Anne? Okay, so scheduling a time with Anne. So looking at this, starting with the physiological, what were some things that you were experiencing at that time?
It was really, I was like really anxious, I was worried, so I was really, I write it down here, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was sweaty, my heart was pretty fast racing.
Okay.
My hands were shaking, I think my whole body was shaking, but my hands were for sure. Those are the biggest ones.
Okay. So you said that your heart was racing, that you were shaking. How does this compare to previous times?
About the same, yeah. I mean, usually it's the same things that happen. Sometimes it's different, or sometimes I notice my breathing is different, you know. But I would say, I mean, it's not like any of those symptoms are new.
Okay, yeah. So it's a pretty common feeling for you. Nothing new, but just feels slightly different, you said.
All right.
Okay. All right, let me jot that down. Okay, and let's move on to the behavior. What are some things that you've noticed that you did?
Oh my gosh, I was looking like an idiot, basically.
Okay, so you said looking like an idiot. What's that look like?
I was like just squeezing my hands, like wringing my hands. I knew she knew that I was doing that.
Okay, so you were wringing your hands. What were some other things that were happening?
One thing I did notice was like, I didn't really look at her very much. Like when we were sitting at the time, I just was kind of just looking down and not really honestly saying much at all.
Okay, so you said that you were looking away, not making a lot of eye contact, and they didn't really say much.
Yeah, I really didn't.
So you said barely spoke. Okay, so yeah, even not really speaking a lot was something that you did. Okay, all right, so good. 3 examples. How about onto the cognitive piece? What were some thoughts that you were having?
I look like an idiot.
I look like an idiot? Yeah, that was something that you said right over here too. That
Right.
Yeah, you said I looked like an idiot just to describe your behavior.
Right.
What about, yeah, what was the second one that you noticed?
What if she thinks I'm dumb?
Okay. And so you remember when we talked about how you want to write these as statements. So this is where it really comes into play today. So it says, what if she thinks I'm dumb? How can we change that to make it a statement?
She thinks I'm dumb?
She thinks I'm dumb? Okay, there we go. So she thinks I'm dumb. Were there any other thoughts that you experienced at that time?
I was thinking, like, I bet she can tell I'm anxious.
Okay, so yeah, she can tell I'm anxious, yeah.
And I was also worried that, like, oh, she probably thinks I'm weird.
Okay, so we want to make it as definitive as possible, black and white. So she thinks I'm weird.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
think that pretty much covers it.
okay, so that's a lot of thoughts there too. So I look like an idiot. She thinks I'm dumb. I bet she thinks I'm anxious, and she thinks I'm weird. So that's pretty strong thoughts there. How did you see this influencing the other areas?
Well, I noticed that I started feeling like sweaty and shaky in my heart and stuff, which, you know, I was trying to like bring my hands together to like stop sweating and like to stop shaking, and which, you know, I was nervous that I looked nervous.
Yeah.
So I was looking away and I didn't want to speak much, and so all that made me think these things.
Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense, having the feeling you're anxious, so she thinks I'm anxious, and then getting more and more, and we're starting to get into the spiral again, it sounds like. Just continues to circle around. And from what I'm hearing too, that's very frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I can hear in your voice how upset you are about that. So that can be very frustrating, that simply thinking these thoughts or feeling these things going on in our body can create such a massive spiral.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So during today, thank you for completing this too, because we'll be using some of this today in our session, primarily the cognitive area. So were you able to get a chance with the reading?
Yeah, I did look over the reading.
Okay, good. So there's a story at the very beginning. Do you happen to remember there's two guys, I believe their names were Jerry and Rich?
I don't really remember it too much,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and review it then. So there's these two guys that had just moved into a new apartment. And one of them, I believe it was Jerry, but I might have to go back through and check and see if that really is him.
We'll say it's Jerry.
Yeah, we'll say it's Jerry. Let's call him Jerry anyway. So Jerry goes to a mailbox, and then he sees a woman at the mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
And she's getting her mail. And he started having thoughts. He goes up and says hi, and then she walks away. He's like, oh, she must think I'm a weirdo. What are some other things that you think he was thinking of?
Probably something like me. She thinks I'm dumb.
Yeah.
I look like an idiot.
Yeah. So he was having all of these thoughts, and he ended up not talking to her after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so we called him Jerry, right? So
Yeah.
Rich, on the other hand, he comes up, same exact situation, meets the lady at the mailbox. But what was he thinking instead? Do you happen to remember?
I think his thoughts were different. He had like regular thoughts. Like, I think his were like, oh, she's probably busy today. I think is what I remember. Because she walked away, and his thoughts were like, oh, she's probably busy today. I'll say hi to her next time.
Right. So yeah, he had different thoughts of like, oh, she's probably busy. That's probably why she didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Or that I'll try again tomorrow.
Right.
And so, do you remember the outcome of what he did at that point?
Huh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So he was able to go up and talk to her again afterwards.
Oh yeah.
So just by having those two different thoughts, you can see that the outcomes were very different.
Yeah, it affected like what they did.
Yeah,
Because Rich went and talked to her, and Jerry never did.
Yeah, so simply because Jerry was thinking like, oh, she thinks I'm weird. I mean, who would want to continue it if you're thinking that at that point? So often we think of situations happening and we just experience these feelings and behaviors right off the bat. Remember you mentioning, talking to me about getting called on in class.
Mm-hmm.
He's automatically gets sweating and like
Yeah.
can't even talk sometimes. So it may feel like that whenever the situation happens, you just go right into these feelings and behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
However, what we've noticed is that these situations, they invoke or they start to stir up thoughts, which then leads to feelings and behaviors. very similar to what you've drawn to today and all the other situations too. So like being called in the classroom, what are some things that you think of in that situation?
I'm being called in the classroom.
Yeah, like professor asks you to answer a question.
Like, I'm thinking like, what if I don't know the answer? Actually, no, I'm thinking I don't know the answer. I won't know the answer. Everyone will think I'm dumb and
Yeah.
weird.
So, and
They'll know I'm anxious.
right, so I don't know, I'm anxious, I don't know the answer, they'll think I'm dumb. No wonder that you're starting to have all of these feelings and
Yeah.
behaviors that occur with it. And as we mentioned before, back to all the other situations that leads to the spiral, all because of these thoughts starting
Yeah.
to occur.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I definitely see how it works, and after especially writing it down and walking through it again here, I definitely see how they're all connected and they lead to that spiral. Kind of,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so having the thoughts being such a powerful thing, we're just going to try to tweak the thoughts. And so that way the outcomes will be different and our feelings and behaviors towards the situation will be different. Just like the two men in the story. All right, sound
Yeah,
good?
that sounds good.
Okay, so I have this thing, worksheet we're going to go into. So we're going to discuss something called automatic thoughts. So automatic thoughts are the thoughts that first pop into our head. They're very automatic reactions almost. So whenever you're in a situation, it's the things that you notice to show up right in your brain that sometimes you don't even really notice until you start feeling the feelings that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
So have you heard of the phrase rose-colored glasses before?
Yeah, from the reading.
Yes, exactly. So rose-colored glasses is usually a phrase of someone who's very optimistic, that they see everything in like a rosy
Yeah.
view of the world. So do you happen to remember what the other type was called? It's another color?
Gold? No, amber.
Yeah, so amber, so you know like amber's like a yellow.
Yeah.
It's
It's
basically,
dark color.
yeah, the warning on a stoplight if you think about
Yeah.
it. So usually that color means caution. So a person with amber colored glasses, usually someone with anxiety, they look through the world in a very cautionary way, always on edge, making sure they're being careful in other situations. So what we're trying to do is trying to remove those amber colored glasses to see things in the light that they are, rather than through a cautionary lens.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
does
makes
that-
sense.
all right, so we're going to practice this a little bit. So I have this worksheet that helps walk through a person who wears amber colored glasses versus one who has them removed. So this first situation is that you pass someone you know fairly well in a store and they do not say hello. So looking up here, what does a person with amber colored glasses think?
They think that they don't like me and they don't want to talk to me.
Okay, and so when they're thinking these thoughts, what happened to their emotions and their physiological responses?
Their heart rate increased, they felt muscle tension, and overall their anxiety increased.
Okay, and do you see that connection there?
Yeah. It's
Okay,
because they were having those thoughts, they were starting to feel this way.
yeah, that makes sense too in that situation. So what are some of their behaviors that happened as a result?
It looked like they just avoided the situation and avoided them the next time they saw that person.
Right, so this person had these thoughts that they don't like me, so their heart increased, their anxiety overall increased, and then they avoided them.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that if we just saw them as avoiding, we wouldn't really know, but after we looked at their thoughts, then their emotions, we see why they acted the way they did. And so let's look at a person's thoughts who does not have the amber colored glasses on.
Yeah, so it's different.
Yeah.
Without the amber colored glasses on, they think that the person didn't see them and that they were probably just lost in thought. And then that changed how they were feeling because they didn't feel anything.
Yeah. So yeah, no emotional changes. And then what did they do after that?
They just said, hey, first, and they just like basically got their attention and talked to them.
Okay, good. So what are some things that you noticed between these two situations?
I mean, everything was different,
Yeah.
but it all happened after the thoughts were changed.
Right, so they started off the same situation, two different thoughts, which
Right.
led to two different emotions.
Like Rich and Jerry.
Yeah, exactly, which led to two different outcomes, just
Right.
like the story. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice one here. I'll let you go ahead and write on these. So, can you read the situation for me, please?
Okay, so it says you're waiting for someone at a movie theater and they were late.
Okay, what would a person with amber colored glasses think in that scenario?
They stood me up.
They stood me up, okay.
Probably they don't like me.
Okay. Yeah, if you get stood up, that's natural to think that they don't like me.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense in that scenario. What are some emotions or physiological responses?
Very sad.
Sad? Yeah.
Their heartbeat's probably racing too.
Yeah. Like they don't like me?
Right. Getting worried about that.
Makes sense.
Probably breathing shallow.
Okay, so feeling a little nervous about
Yeah,
that, like,
like,
oh, they stood me
They
up.
stood me up.
Yeah. It's like, oh, and probably other thoughts might be like something I did wrong.
Yeah.
Could be a lot of other things too. Good, so sad. What was that one?
Sorry, their increased heartbeat.
Increased heartbeat, okay. And then the shallow breathing. Okay, so what are some behaviors you think happened to this person?
They probably just left the movie
Left? Yeah, just,
and then didn't talk to the person again.
yeah,
So probably at this one they avoided the person.
right. And like I said, that makes sense. So having these thoughts of they don't like me and getting sad, increasing heartbeats, and that they have shallow breathing, and it just left and avoid the person. Yeah, it makes sense why that outcome happened. What about a person that does not have amber colored glasses at that point?
They probably think that the person is late
Yeah, probably think they're late, which is
Yeah.
plausible, definitely.
or stuck in traffic.
Okay, they were possibly stuck in traffic too.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some emotions that they could be having?
Maybe a little bit of nervousness because they don't want to miss the movie,
Okay,
but
a
not
little
very
nervous.
much.
Yeah,
That's probably about it.
okay. And then, so what's the behavior that they might have?
Maybe call the person
Call? Yeah.
and then just wait.
All right, so having the thought of, oh, they're probably late or they're stuck in traffic. And so there might be some nervousness, like probably concern for them or like concern about missing the movie, which makes sense. They can still experience nervousness, it's just about a different thing.
Right.
And so, which led to the behavior of calling the person, checking.
Yeah, like, hey, where are you?
Yeah, it's like, where are you at? And waiting until they show up. So what are some things that you notice about this scenario?
It's kind of like the first one's completely different.
Yeah.
So like the person on the top with the amber colored glasses just didn't get to see the movie, didn't get to see the person, ended up avoiding the person. But without the amber colored glasses, they just probably were able to call them and find out that they were just running late.
Yeah.
And they were able to see the person and see the movie, so like, it worked out a lot better.
Yeah, and again, two very separate situations too. So what are your thoughts overall on whenever you see these scenarios play out?
I mean, it definitely seems a lot better with the amber colored glasses off, and I definitely feel like I have them on a lot. So it'd be nice to learn how to take them off. It's just so hard to, I mean, like, because I always seems like in the back of my mind, I could think that, but in the back of my mind, I'm always going to be like, oh, they still don't like me, you know?
Right.
So it just seems like a lot of practice, a lot of work.
Yeah, just like every other new skill too, it takes a lot of practice, a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been thinking these thoughts for a long time,
Yeah.
and I don't by any means expect you just to stop thinking right away. Like,
Yeah.
stop thinking all those thoughts, how dare you think these thoughts. It's not necessarily what we're trying to aim at, is saying like these thoughts are bad or awful. It's just that we're trying to get a new perspective on things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not saying that this person is wrong or horrible for having amber colored glasses on. It's just it may have distorted their vision a little.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get them to see it a little more clearly.
Yeah.
All right. Good. What other thoughts do you have, or even questions for that matter?
No, I think it makes sense.
Okay. So let's go ahead and dive right into some things called thinking errors. Now, when we say thinking errors, this just means that the way we're thinking can sometimes not necessarily reflect the actual situation. Our thoughts can, especially when we're nervous, can easily distort how we see reality. So there's actually different categories of thinking errors that we experience whenever we have social anxiety. So I have a list for you here. I'll just let you go ahead and read through that. If there's any that you're not quite sure about or doesn't make a whole lot of sense, please let me know and I'll try to explain it best I can.
No, I think good. That makes sense.
Okay, so they said these are thinking traps, so these are like things that we fall into, especially with our thoughts. So is there one that stood out to you more than others?
I think mind reading.
Mind
I feel
reading?
like I probably do a lot of that.
Okay, and
So
yeah, what does that look like for you?
just thinking that I know what the other person is thinking.
Right.
You know?
I mean, if we even look back here, let's go ahead and actually look through your worksheet that you did. One that I stand out to me is that she thinks I'm weird.
Right.
So you want to go ahead and put an MR for us to,
Oh, the same person too. She thinks I'm dumb.
yeah. So that's a pretty common one
That's
for
not
you.
a lot.
Okay, good. So we're just going to go ahead and label some of these so that way we can identify patterns of what we experience.
Okay.
Okay, so you've already noticed that mind reading occurred twice for you in just this one situation. Good. What are some others that you think, how about I look like an idiot?
I'm not sure about that one. I guess it could be like all or nothing thinking.
Okay, and how do you see that fitting?
Either I'm an idiot or I'm not.
True.
I don't know.
Yeah. Do you mind if I take a look at it too? We can probably sit on the table.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sorry, I could have made another copy. Yeah, so I can see that. So being the all or nothing, it's like either you're an idiot or you're not, it sounds like. Also, we can apply more than one if we feel like that it fits. What do you think about labeling?
Yeah, putting a label on myself. So like calling myself an idiot. That seems to fit better.
Okay. So it sounds like putting this label that I'm an idiot or I look like an idiot, that's a pretty strong label to put on yourself too. Because idiot's a really strong word.
Yeah.
All right, what about, I bet she can tell I'm anxious.
I think that's mind reading again.
Mind reading? Okay.
But also I see a little bit of fortune telling.
Okay. Yeah, you're just like, you just have this bet on yourself that you can tell that she knows. So, yeah, I can see both of those fitting too. So, what are some things that stood out to you looking at this?
Definitely I was right about mind reading.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But also it brings to my attention some other things that I do too, some other thinking errors that I do.
Yeah, so there tends to be, we can sometimes get stuck in one category, but
Yeah.
it doesn't stop us from going to other categories as well.
Right.
So, yeah, good pattern recognizing there, the mind reading being one of the most common. However, there is some labeling and some fortune telling as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to another activity. So we're just going to go ahead and practice how we recognize these errors and then how we can challenge them in a way to give us a new perspective.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick scenario. So let's say I'm going to go up to my boss and I'm going to ask for a day off. I'm going to take a personal day to go visit a friend. So what are some things that you're thinking about as I'm getting ready to approach my boss?
I'm probably thinking, what if he says no?
Okay, what if he says no? So, like I said, we mentioned earlier about we want to not necessarily have questions in them, because questions are very hard to challenge. There's so many other ways you can answer them. So whenever we come up to challenging thoughts, we want to make them as statements. So how can we change that question into a statement?
He'll probably say no.
Okay.
Or she'll probably say no.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a he or she.
Well, it's just for commentary, is that he. And so, also, probably is a little tricky. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out probably.
So he'll say no?
Okay. So he'll say no. Yeah, that's pretty definite there. He'll say no. What's another thought you think I have?
He'll be mad at me for asking.
Yeah. So he'll be mad at me for asking. Good. How about one more?
I'm dumb for asking.
I'm dumb for asking. Yeah. Well, especially with that other thought, it's like he'll be mad at me.
Right.
Heck, I'm dumb for even asking.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So yeah, he'll say no. Even if I ask, he'll be mad at me. And with that being said, I'm dumb for even asking. So that's an interesting chain there too. It's just like one right after another,
Yeah.
all these automatic thoughts just popping up.
Right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and label these using our worksheet we have. I'm starting to see some themes here. So what are some things that you, labels you think fit for he'll say no?
Again, mind reading probably.
Mind reading, okay. So I'm thinking I know what he's gonna say.
Right. Also fortune telling.
Right, I was thinking the same thing. So how does fortune telling fit?
Because you're already assuming that's what's going to happen.
Right, I'm trying to predict the future here. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I know he'll say no.
Right.
Right. Any others that fit?
Mm. I don't know, I feel like those are the only ones that really fit.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and go down to the second one then. So he'll be mad at me for asking.
I guess that's fortune telling again.
Fortune telling? Okay. So yeah, how do you see that fitting?
Because again, you're assuming, or you're already reading into the future that that's for sure what's going to happen, is that he's going to be mad at you.
Right. So yeah, it's like I'm already trying to see into the future that, oh, because I'm asking, he'll be mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but however, it's in the present moment, we don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
It
so
could be unhelpful too.
unhelpful? Okay. How does unhelpful fit?
Well, because, well, I guess I don't know.
Okay, how about you go ahead and read it unhelpful for me, just to help me jog my memory.
So problematic thoughts that do not contain logical errors. These thoughts may be true, or value statements that are neither true or false, but dwelling on them makes you feel more anxious.
Okay, so usually we use that label for things that don't really fit into either one category.
Yeah, after I said it and read it, that made
Yeah.
a lot more sense.
Yeah, because technically they're all unhelpful, right?
Yeah.
These could be things that have like happened in our past, like if you've been bullied a lot, and you had thoughts, well, I've been bullied before. Yeah, that may be
makes
true.
sense.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not helping you now. So this could be things that are history. It could be things that are really just ambiguous that you can't really tell if they're true or false or what they are. Ambiguous, there, and finally pronounced the word right. So that's would be a situation where we can use that label. But yeah, I agree with you, they're all unhelpful. It's just, I think that you hit the nail on the head with fortune telling.
Yeah, I think that one fits the best.
Right, okay. And I don't really see any of the other ones. How about you?
Not really. I think
Not
fortune
really.
telling, fits the best.
Okay. And how about this last one? I'm dumb for asking.
Well, it's kind of the one that we practiced with earlier, so labeling.
Right, exactly. It's almost identical, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I'm dumb for asking. Any others that seem to fit?
No, I think that fits pretty well.
Okay, good. So, see, what are some patterns you've noticed?
Well, fortune telling popped up a bunch.
Yeah.
Well, twice again.
So, I have fortune telling twice.
Mm-hmm.
Any other things that stood out to you on that?
I mean, a lot of it was like worrying about what the other person is going to do and what they're going to think, which makes sense.
Yeah, so another mind reading, which seems to be, like I said, a very common thing for us to see here. And fortune telling, and also there's some labeling. They were calling ourselves names even
Yeah.
with our thoughts. So once we labeled our thoughts, we really want to see, do these thoughts hold up water? So like any good scientist, these are basically hypotheses. And we're going to test them and see, are they really true? Do they reflect their situations? Or are these amber-colored glasses thinking? All right? So one way to do that is by asking these thoughts. They're called challenging your automatic thoughts. And here's some examples of different questions you can ask yourself. So pretend that you're my friend, you're my coworker,
Yeah.
and that I say these things out loud to you. It's like, man, I really want to ask boss for the day off, but he'll say no, he'll be mad at me for asking, and I'm dumb for asking. So let's go ahead and focus on one. Let's say he'll say no. Let's focus on that one. I just told you I want to ask boss for a day off, but he'll say no. So what are some questions that you would ask me to help me challenge this thought, this mind reading and fortune telling thought?
Are you 100% sure
Okay.
he'll say no?
So my response would be like, well, not 100%, but I mean, he said no before, so I think he might. So what would be another thing that you would ask me?
I don't know, some of these kind of fit.
Yeah, and if there's a question that seems to fit
Yeah,
better.
like what evidence do you have? But he said no in the past.
Yeah. Could there be a follow-up question?
Oh, yeah, what evidence do I have that the opposite could be true?
Okay, so basically like, what evidence do I have that he'll say yes?
Right.
Well, he let our other coworker have a day off. I mean, I am visiting my grandma. I haven't seen her in a while. So I'm gonna go ahead and write down my responses. So I'd be like, said yes before. I'll say I'm visiting my grandma, which I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm lying to him or anything. Okay, is there any other questions you'd ask me? I'm still a little hesitant.
Well, what is the worst that could happen?
What's the worst that could happen? Well, I guess he'll say no, but I can try again some other time.
Yeah.
So he could say no. But I can try again.
Oh, you can always try again.
Yeah. And it's not like I said that he would be mad at me either, it's just that he would say no.
Right.
Okay, so we're looking at the green things that my responses to your questions were. So you said yes before. I'll tell him that the reason why I'm visiting is to see my grandmother, and that he could say no, but I can try again later. So as I'm going in and going up to my boss and asking this question, I want a mantra almost, or like a quick quote or phrase in my mind to help remind me of all the things that we've talked about. And this is called a rational response. So whenever I start feeling nervous about going up to my boss and asking him for the day off, I can remind myself of all the things we talked about today. So how would you summarize all the things that we said here?
Oh, that's kind of hard.
Yeah.
And I guess he could say yes.
Yeah, you could say yes. All right, and I would probably add if he says no, I'll try again.
Yeah, if he says no, it's okay. If he says no, I'll try again.
Yeah, because I really liked it that whenever you asked me that question is what's the worst that can happen, and really that's all it was for me.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be, only one sentence, but we don't want a giant paragraph trying to remember
Yeah, I
everything.
think that looks good.
Yeah.
You could say yes, and if he says no, I'll just try again.
Okay, so yeah, very short to the point and it summarizes everything.
Yeah.
Very good. So, what are your thoughts when looking at this?
It's definitely a process.
Yeah.
But I see how it kind of flows and it makes sense with like the thinking errors and just reading questions, and the outcome's a lot better.
Right.
Definitely the rational response is better than those thoughts in the
Mhm.
orange.
Yeah. So it does take a little little bit. It takes a little bit of practice, and we're just now getting introduced to this, so there's a lot of
Yeah.
step by step. However, when we get to the point where you're just applying this automatically to yourself,
Right.
whenever you have thoughts that are in the orange, that are amber colored, like, that you'd be able to identify, is this a thinking error or does this really reflect my situation? Then you can challenge yourself with the questions and then think of a response for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and practice with some of the thoughts you have. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk this over here. So within the past week, describe for me a situation where you felt anxious.
Well, can I use my homework one?
Yeah, if you feel comfortable doing that, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. So, like when I was trying to schedule a meeting with my classmate for a project we were doing.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jot that up at the board in the corner over here.
Okay.
So that way we're reminded what it is. So situation, you're scheduling a meeting with your classmate, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Meeting with classmates.
Yep.
All right. Good. So, referring back to the homework or any other new thoughts that you had, what are some thoughts when you were in that situation? I'll let you go ahead and look at that.
That I looked like an idiot.
So, one being, I look like an idiot. Okay, that's another one.
She'll tell that I'm anxious.
So she'll be able to tell I'm anxious. All right.
I'll be a bad partner. I was kind of nervous about that too,
Yeah.
since we're working on a project.
So, it was about projects. So,
Yeah.
in the back of your mind as you're talking about a meeting, sorry, forgot.
Yeah.
That in the back of your mind, you're like, be a bad partner. Like,
Yeah.
if I can't even get this meeting scheduled,
Right.
what's that say about me? Pretty
Exactly.
much. Yeah. Okay. How about one more?
She won't like me.
Okay, so looking at this, we're going to go ahead and pick one thought to be able to, well, we're going to identify these first and then we'll pick one thought to challenge. Okay? So, I look like an idiot. What are some thinking errors that you think? What categories?
That one's labeling.
Labeling. Oh,
Yeah.
right. Any others? Seems like labeling's pretty strong on this one.
Yeah, I think that's the best for that one.
Okay. What about she'll tell that I'm anxious. So she can tell.
Fortune telling.
Fortune telling?
It's like knowing that that's what's gonna happen.
Okay.
It's also mind reading.
Mind reading? How about I'll be a bad partner.
Fortune telling again.
Fortune telling? Okay, any others?
Maybe labeling again.
Labeling?
Kind of, in a weird way.
Yeah, well, you're saying
Yeah, like I'm a bad
assigning
part.
bad, yeah. That, yeah, I could see that being a label too, that you're signing yourself as being like a bad partner.
Yeah.
Okay, what about she won't like me?
Mind reading.
Mind reading, okay. Any others that seem to fit?
Probably fortune telling again.
Fortune telling, okay.
Maybe even all or nothing.
All or nothing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically like either she won't like me or she won't like me.
Right.
Sounds like pretty.
Yeah, but I mean, just because like we could just be good partners together doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything bad necessarily.
Doesn't necessarily mean you have to be best friends either.
Right, exactly.
Okay. All right. So got labeling. What are some things that you notice about the labels? The categories we have.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
again, fortune telling comes up a lot.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that labeling comes up as much as it does too.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that before.
Yeah, there's 2 there, 3 fortune telling. Any
Uh-huh.
other patterns that you notice?
2 mind readings.
2 mind readings, okay.
So there's definitely some patterns.
Right. It seems very common for you to go to a fortune telling, a mind reading, or a labeling.
Mhm.
However, you just have one all or nothing too.
Mhm.
So it seems like these are the most common for you.
Yeah, and it showed up a lot in this other homework too.
Right. So we're starting to see some things and themes that occur with
Yeah.
the thinking traps that we have. It's easy for us to get stuck in these trains of thought
Mhm.
and be trapped down there. That makes sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at one of these thoughts. Let's take a look at this one. She'll be able to tell that I'm anxious. So, what are some questions like you can ask yourself?
Do I know for certain that she'll tell that I'm anxious?
Okay. So I'm gonna write that down. Do I know for certain? And what was the last part on, do you know for certain about what?
Do I know for certain that she'll tell that I'm anxious?
Okay.
She'll be able to tell?
Alright, because I was like, I thought I heard that that I'm anxious, so I was just making sure that I clarified that.
Yeah.
So how do I know that she'll be able to see that I'm
Yeah.
anxious? Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Sorry.
That's okay, I was just making sure that I heard you correctly. So what would be your answer to that?
I mean, I guess I don't know for certain, but I mean, I'm pretty sure she'll be able to tell that I'm like shaking and sweating and stuff.
Yeah. And like I said, we don't have to, it doesn't have to be like, it is what it is, or that's pretty much all or nothing thinking, isn't it? So it's like, it sounds like, I don't know, I heard that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know for sure. She
For
probably
sure. I heard, but she might.
Yeah, but she might.
Okay. So already, how does this compare to the first time? So,
It's a little bit like easier,
yeah.
you know, like not as like harsh.
Yeah, it sounds like, it's like 100% gonna happen.
Right.
It's been foretold. She can tell that I'm anxious. And here it's like, I don't know for sure,
Right.
but she might.
Right.
So it sounds like that there's a little bit of a backing off there.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay. What's another question you can ask yourself?
What's the worst that can happen? That's a pretty good question.
Okay, yeah. So what is the worst that could happen?
I mean, I guess if I look at it that way, the worst that could happen would be that she could see me like shaking and sweating.
Okay.
And how bad is that? Is the next question. I think it's a 2-part question.
Yeah. And some of these are follow-up ones
Yeah.
that she could see me. And so what was the question again?
How bad is that?
How bad is that? Okay, so how bad is that?
Yeah, at first it seems pretty bad, but then if I really look into it, it's probably not that bad. Doesn't really mean anything necessarily.
Okay, so it says, at first it's a little bad, but you said, but now that I look into it,
Right. It isn't really that bad.
it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Any other questions you'd like to ask yourself about that?
Well, I think that's pretty good.
Okay, so how do you feel? We went from, she'll be able to tell that I'm anxious to, I don't know for sure, but she might, to the worst of the happen is that she would see me be anxious. And that at first it could be a little bad, but when I look into it, it's not that bad, that she can see that I'm
I like
anxious.
that a lot better.
Okay.
Especially the last one makes me feel a lot more comfortable.
Alright, so yeah, looking at it from a what's the worst that could happen perspective,
Right.
you said you felt a lot more comfortable seeing that it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, she'll notice,
Right.
and that you can handle that worst
Yeah.
case scenario. Okay, So back to our last step, how do we summarize all this? So from here to here to here, how do we summarize a mantra or a theme that you can go by?
Being anxious isn't that bad.
How do you feel when you look at that?
It's better.
Better?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a phrase that you can use?
I think it takes practice, but yeah.
Right. Is there, and which is fine, is there another phrase that you think would work better in this particular situation?
It's okay to be anxious.
Okay. Okay, so it's okay to be anxious. What do you think about that one?
That one's good too.
That one's good too? Which one do you like better?
I think the bottom one. It's okay to be anxious.
Okay.
It's still hard to believe, but I think I could find myself believing it more. It just sounds better to me.
Yeah, it sounds more authentic to you,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we want. We want responses that you would tell yourself. It
Yeah.
wouldn't do you any good if it was my words
Right.
and what I think would help you work. These are your words,
Yeah.
and you can own it. So this phrase is yours to own. So it's okay to be anxious. So with that in mind, what questions do you have about all of this today? Anything that seemed unclear? Or...
Nothing. Nope, I don't have any questions.
Okay, so for homework this week, I have a worksheet for you, as always. And this one looks at situations, so like the situations you've had before, and the dialogue between your anxious self and your coping self. So we can see the anxious self being the orange, and that the coping self would be the green.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say walking through the scenario that your anxious self says, she'll be able to tell that I'm anxious. So your coping self is the one, do I know for certain? Anxious self could respond saying, I don't know for sure, but might.
Mm-hmm.
So you see how that pattern works out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so looking at this, what are some times that you would be able to do this?
I could probably go home tonight, honestly, and do it. Especially since
Okay.
we practiced it, it's on my mind.
Okay, so going home tonight, so is there anything that you think that could prevent you from doing that?
Oh no, not really. I'm not doing anything tonight. I don't really have any plans, but if something were to come up, I could just do it tomorrow night after school.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a backup plan.
Yeah.
So tomorrow night after school,
Uh-huh.
which is good because sometimes life happens, which is understandable.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and I'm interested to see how this turns out. So great work today. Thank you for being open and being able to explore this with me today.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for your help.
of course, and I'm looking forward to see what comes out of your homework this week.
Yeah, me too.